I hope you enjoyed hearing the rest of the story. So now, we're going to have a think about how we might write that story from the perspective of the little boy that we met at the end. We're going to think about all the things in the story that we might need to change if we were telling the story from the perspective of the boy. The perspective means the viewpoint of. So at the minute, the story is from the viewpoint of Imi, but we're going to look at it from the viewpoint of this little boy on the beach. We've written out a shortened version of the story Imi. I'll read it to you and then you can have a think about what we might need to change. Once upon a time in a cold, faraway land lived a lonely little girl called Imi. One day she was fishing through a hole in the ice when she found a little wooden bird. She had never seen such bright colours, so she put it on her igloo. The next day she found an orange starfish. After that she found a purple feather. A wolf, a polar bear and a seal came to see her beautiful igloo, and Imi wasn't lonely anymore. So, let's read the first sentence and see what might need to change if we were writing a story from the perspective of the boy. It says, once upon a time in a cold, faraway land lived a lonely little girl called Imi. So if we're going to be talking about the boy, let's have a look. What would we change? Once upon a time in a cold, faraway land. He doesn't live in a cold, faraway land, does he? He lives in a hot, faraway land. So I'm going to get my highlighter and I'm going to highlight what I'm going to change. So I would change cold. I might even change far away. In a cold, so what we would say, once upon a time in a cold, faraway land lived a lonely little girl called Imi. So I think quite a lot of this last sentence needs to change. So I'm going to highlight all of those adjectives, lonely and little, and then our noun girl, and also called Imi. There we go. So I would need to change all of that in my first sentence. So let's read the next sentence. One day she was fishing through a hole in the ice when she found a little wooden bird. So what do we know about the little boy? He doesn't live near any ice. So he wouldn't be fishing through the ice when he found anything, would he? So let's highlight that, shall we? So one day she was fishing through a hole in the ice. That needs to change. When she found a little wooden bird. That's not what he would find, is it? Because that's what he dropped in the ocean. So let's change that. So when she found a little wooden bird, all of that needs to change as well. You're going to have to make a lot of changes here too. So let's do the next one together. She had never seen such bright colours, so she put it on her igloo. So we'd need to change. Let's have a look at the first sentence. She had never. The first part of the sentence, sorry. The she needs to change because it's a he. She had never seen. I think, let's highlight such bright colours. She'd never seen such bright colours, so she put it on her igloo. Would he have an igloo on the beach? I don't think so, so let's highlight that to change. And there's another she here, so let's highlight that. Okay, the next one, let's do. So the next day, she found an orange starfish. After that, she found a purple feather. This is going to be interesting, isn't it? This is a bit which we must change a lot of. So we'll put, the next day she found an orange starfish. After that she found a purple feather. Both of those things you're going to need to change, aren't you? Because we're going to have a little think about what the boy might find if Imi was sending her gifts. Okay, so the final one. A wolf, a polar bear and a seal came to see her beautiful igloo, and Imi wasn't lonely anymore. We did all about where different animals live, didn't we, recently, year 2? So we know that a wolf, a polar bear and a seal, they wouldn't live on a hot beach, would they? So that's going to have to change. And then they wouldn't come and see her beautiful igloo. might they see if they were on the beach? We'll have a think about that later. And Immy wasn't lonely anymore, so we'll change that to whichever name we changed at the start. So, now we've had a look at what we need to change. We're going to make some notes on how we're going to change or innovate the story. So turn to a clean page in your big yellow book. First of all, we're going to look at the very first part of the story. To make sure we know which part of the story we're making notes on, I want you to take your pencil and write a big number 1 in the corner. So just do the number 1 at the top corner of your page. So let's have a quick think about what we do when we make notes. We don't need to make full sentences, do we? Just jottings or drawing pictures of things that will help remind us what we want to write when we come back to it. So we know we're going to change cold, far away land, the dirt, lonely little, and we'll change girl called Immy. So, if we're going to change it to be from the perspective of the boy, what did we notice about where he lived? Did it look cold? I don't think it did. I think it looked hot and sunny. So if I'm going to do hot and sunny, I might draw a sunshine to remind me that that's how I'm going to change the first bit. So it's not going to be a cold faraway land, but maybe a hot, sunny faraway land. Okay, and then if I want to remember, I've got to change it to be the little boy instead of the little girl called Immy. So I might just draw a little smiley face of a boy. Maybe because he had short black hair, didn't he? So we'll give him short black hair to remind us to change it so that we're talking about the boy. And then I want you, without any help from me, to have a think about what you might change his name to. And when you've had a think, you could write his name here on your sheet next to your number 1. So for the first one, I've got a little drawing of a boy. You could do a much better drawing than I've done of the little boy. And then a drawing of a sun to remind me that I'm going to change it to hot. And then I'm going to write down his name to whatever I'd like to change his name to. You can pause the video now if you'd like to and do all of those drawings or make any jottings that you think might be helpful. Okay, so when you finish the first one, you can move on to this one. Because we're changing the part of the story, I'm going to write a number 2 on my piece of paper, just there to remind me. So it might look like you've got a number 1 at the top and then the number 2 is down the side of the page to help you remember to start a different piece of writing. So we decided that with this one we were going to change. One day he's not going to be fishing through a hole in the ice when he found a little wooden bird. Okay, so we know we've got to change them, but this one's a little bit more tricky. Have a little think in your head now. What might you change she was fishing through a hole in the ice to? You could pause the video now and have a little think if you'd like to. I think, if it was me, I would have a think about what that little boy might be doing and he might find something. So if he's on the beach, I think he might be taking a walk on the beach. So I might draw a little boy on a walk. So I might draw his legs moving to make sure I know he's on a walk. And he's not just walking anywhere because they've said through a hole in the ice. I might draw a beach to remind myself that he's on the beach. So I'm going to draw the sand and then the water like that. But you can draw whatever might help you remember that he's walking on the beach. If you want him to be doing something slightly different when he finds something, that is absolutely fine. Just draw a picture to help you remember what you would like him to be doing. The next bit we're going to change is that he would find a little wooden bird, because that's what Immy found because he'd given it to her. So let's have a think. What did Immy drop through the ice at the very end of the story that the little boy found? Have a think now in your head. Did any of you remember that it was a little white bear? If you did, well done. So I'm going to draw a little bear. Please forgive me if my drawing is bad. It's quite tricky to draw on this. This is not looking very much like a bear, but that's okay because I'll know that it's a bear. So that's the little white bear, just to remind me. So maybe if you want to pause the video, I might actually, don't pause the video yet. I'm going to write the word bear, just to remind myself that that's what I've drawn there. So for this bit, I'll remember that I'm changing. She was fishing through a hole in the ice to he was walking on the beach and he found a little white bear. So would you like to pause the video now and see if you can do that too? When you finish that, let's move on to the next one. So you should have number 1 and number 2. Then I want you to go down another line and I want you to write a big number 3 on the side of your page. So you know you're starting a new bit of writing. So we said with this one, we were going to change, never seen such bright colours. So she put it on her igloo. So that's going to change. So let's have a little think. If Immy is sending things from her cold white world, what kind of colours might they be? Maybe pause the video now and have a little think. What colour would the things be that Immy would be sending the boy? So I've had a little think, and I think if they were coming from the cold white, it almost looked like the North Pole, didn't it, or somewhere very frozen and cold. I think that a lot of the things might be white or blue. So I think, because I don't have any coloured pens, I might just write white. Gosh, that's very tricky to write. White or blue. If you've got any coloured pencils, you could actually just make a little, maybe do a little sketch. I'll just show you because I can change the colour of my pen. So I might do this to show that it's blue, and I might do this to show that it's white, to remind myself that that might be what I change it to. You might choose different colours, or you might choose a different word. So to start with, we know how we're going to change this little bit. Then this is really tricky. Immy has an igloo in her cold frozen world, but what might the boy have in his sandy beachy world that's a bit like an igloo? I'm going to have a little think. I think that he might have a sand castle in my story. So I'm going to do a drawing. This is going to be tricky. How am I going to draw a sandcastle? It's got little turrets, hasn't it? So then I know that he's got a sandcastle. You might want to colour yours in on your page. So it doesn't have to be a sandcastle, but that's what I'm going to do for my story. So I've done that to remind myself. So I'm going to do the colours, the white and the blue, to remind myself that it's not bright colours, but these pale, icy colours that she might be sending. And then I'm going to change her igloo to his sandcastle. So I've drawn that next to my number 3 on my page Do you want to pause the video now and have a go at that? Okay, when you've done that, let's move on to the next one. So I'm going to write a number 4 at the corner of my page. So I've drawn my number 4. It should go 1, 2, 3, 4 down the side of your page now. So this is the bit where we want you to be really creative, year 2. So what we've said is the next day she found an orange starfish, and after that she found a purple feather. So those two things need to change to two things that Imi might send to the boy to help him imagine what it's like where she lives. So this bit, I want you to have a think. Think about where she lives. Think about what you saw when you were reading that book and what she had. Think about what she could be sending to the boy to remind him of what her home is like. This can be anything that you could imagine Imi having in her house. So she had a little white bear, but you might want to do some ice. I might draw a bit of ice. It's quite tricky to draw ice, like an icicle like that. See if that reminds me. Maybe she'd send some ice to him. What else might she send? She might send... This is going to be meant to be a seal, so please imagine that it looks like a seal. That does not look like a seal at all, does it? Let's give it a smiley face so we know. So to make that look a little bit more like a seal, I'm going to give it a tail. And some flippers here. The thing is, it doesn't matter if it doesn't look exactly how you imagined it was going to look, because you'll know what it is. If you think it's going to be tricky, I might write the word seal underneath here. Okay, why don't you pause the video now to have a really good think about what you would like Imi to send. It can be anything that you can imagine living near her or being something that might be found where she lives. When you've had a go at drawing your two things that you would like Imi to find, you can move on to the next slide with me. So now we're going to move on to the next bit of writing, which is the last bit. It's the fifth one, so I'm going to write a number 5 on my page. I would like you to write a number 5 on the side of your page next to where you're about to start drawing. So down your page it should say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So with this one we've got to change quite a lot again. So we would change the wolf, a polar bear and a seal. Came to see her beautiful igloo we want to change, and Imi wasn't lonely anymore. All of that needs to change. So here it's talking about lots of animals that might live somewhere cold. But I want you to have a go at thinking of 3 animals that might live somewhere warm. I'm going to have a think. With mine, I'm going to try to draw a fish that might come to see the boy's lovely new thing. So I'm going to do a big red fish. I'm going to give him a smiley face. So if we were somewhere hot, there might be fish that might come to see him. What else might there be? Maybe there would be a dolphin. Let's see if I can draw a dolphin. It's quite tricky to do this. Not really sure that looks much like a dolphin. But because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to remember what that is, I'm going to write the word dolphin underneath it to remind myself. So I'm going to do D-F-L, and then it's the digraph for the PH, dolphin, to remind myself. Okay, then I've got to think of one more animal. So I've got a fish, I've got a dolphin. I think I might try and do a crab, which might be very tricky to draw. So I'm just going to do a circle like that, some pincers, and then some legs like this. Okay, so I'm also going to write the word crab underneath to remind myself. So you can think of any 3 animals that you think might be on the beach with the boy and might see all the lovely things that Imi has sent to him. That can be any 3 animals that you might find on the beach. You don't have to use the 3 that I've used. So then I want you to draw those 3 animals next to your number 5 on your page. And then what you need to do is have a little look back and think about what you said the boy had on his beach. So I said he had a sand castle. So I'm going to have to remind myself to change the igloo to the sandcastle. So let's draw my sandcastle like that. So that's to remind me to change the igloo to the sandcastle. And then, whichever name you chose for your boy, you need to write down here. So I'm going to write name to remind myself to change and to write down the name to change it. So why don't you pause the video now and have a go at doing 3 animals, drawing whatever you said the boy was going to put his things onto. That might be a sandcastle, might be something else, and then writing down the name that you chose for the boy to remind yourself to change the name. When you've paused the video and had a go at all of that, you are finished for your task for today. Just make sure that all of your drawings and your notes are clearly numbered with the numbers that I've just told you to do as we're going along. So when you've finished, just have a check. Does your number 1 have a drawing of a boy and a sunshine or something similar? Does your number 2 have a drawing of the boy on the beach or wherever he's going to be and a little white bear? Does your number 3 have some colours next to it and a drawing of either a sandcastle or whatever else you wanted the boy to have? Does your number 4 have your drawings of the 2 things that you wanted the boy to find from Imi? And does your number 5 have your drawing of 3 animals, a sandcastle and then the name of the boy? Just check over. I'm going to show on the next screen the numbers that each section has. So if you want to pause the video and try and link them up, that would be fantastic. Once you've done that, you're all done. So have a lovely day, Year 2.